shot in my back by the police. My brother was shot in his back by the police. Paralyzed for 50 years, couldn't do nothing. I still got 3 bullets in me today where I was shot. I was shot when Martin Luther King was killed. We who are on the streets had no voice. We had nobody to go to and to speak to, or the media would hear us. So we took to the streets. That's why I was shot. That's the day I was shot, when Martin Luther King was killed and assassinated. I and my friends, we went to the streets to show our response to it, that you killed our leader. And we responded. And that day, I was shot in my back by the police for running from the police.
Did anything happen to the police officer who shot?
Not a thing. Not a thing. Then I kept running. Wind up in the hospital, staying almost a week, maybe 2 weeks. Thought I was gonna die. When my father looked at me, he said, "Tyrone, I don't think you're gonna." He didn't think that I was gonna make it. But I went on to make it, to help to create one of the most strongest organizations in the District of Columbia now.
And what's that?
The Alliance of Concerned Men. So this is the reasons as to why I'm here. Very little has changed. Very little has changed in the contents of that, because Black lives do not matter. People of color lives do not matter in America.
Welcome to a special weekend edition of the Nick and CJ show. Now today we're labeling it the Zoya, Nick, and CJ show. I'm one of your hosts. I'm CJ. What's up, Nick?
What's poppin', my people, my friends, my family? Welcome to RBN Weekend Live. Always great to join us on a Saturday. We're here with our amazing friend of the show, family of the show. Zoya's Love, Zoya's Life. I co-founded Tender Mans with her. Welcome to RBN once again, my friend.
Thank you so much for the warm introduction. I love RBN and I love you guys so much. Unfortunately, so much tragedy has occurred, and we're seeing a massive outcry from our people, from our brothers and sisters, from the proletariat in the streets. And I want to capitalize on this moment to state our demands and give direction to the anger that's going to be coming in the next several days.
Yeah, well said. And I love how the intro video, the guy said nothing had changed. Our Black elder is making the point that nothing have changed. And that's why I have nothing but disdain for these Negroes who apologize for the system, dance with the ruling class, our enemy, and then pass the lie on to the next generation that we made this amazing progress. Because when you talk to people like him, when you talk to the Black proletariat, when you talk to people like us who all know people who died via police violence, via state violence, and then we go on RBN and we do many reports. I have literally written an op-ed, Zoe, you read it. I'm checking out my Substack, where I did a comprehensive breakdown of the police state. And I was explaining like why America has taught us, and I learned this through schools, which is why it's ridiculous that Republicans pretend that critical race theory has been taught, because they taught us. It was like, we had civil rights protests, MLK came up, white America loved MLK. We were like, hey, MLK, thank you for telling us the way. And then all of a sudden, they fixed the problem of racism. State violence is over. Everyone's about to become prosperous. Moving on up. Remember that?
Think about that, Nick. Think about.
Go ahead. Nothing changed.
I was gonna say, think about that. The only way they can even push the narrative that we've reached the finish line with that civil rights bill that they did is after he can be murdered. Because if he was not murdered, he'd be like, "Oh, what do you mean? We've reached the promised line."
Yeah, they killed all.
No. That's step one of 20 steps. You get what I'm saying? So it is just but it's sad that we are having to keep having these conversations about police violence, because that means there's another victim and another family that's going to be affected forever. There's not anything that goes away. So that's the reason why, for me, Nick, I'm doing this subject, because I typically don't do these subjects because they're very traumatic for me, especially looking at the videos and stuff like that. So,
Yeah,
but this is very important to illustrate why this is white supremacy. And people are going to say, well, what do you mean? The cops are all black. And we're going to explain that later today. So just stick around if you need
a lot of people
an
saying
explanation.
that too.
Yeah, so if you need that explanation, stick around. We will. This is an education for those who don't understand how this is white supremacy. This is an education for that. And it's not their fault, Nick, because you look at white supremacy only through the lens of individual people instead of systems, because you've been told that systems are not racist. So it's a relearning of what actually is and what's not. And I'll make that make more sense once we get to the top.
Yeah, and that was the whole concept that of critical race theories that Democrats pretend they understand, where they focus on individual racism. But even the concept of critical race theory, as explained by scholars, is we're looking at systematic problems, systematic racism, the wealth gaps, literally state violence. It doesn't get more direct than that. And that is why you got the capitalist wing, you got white America that want to ban discussions of systems and historical wealth stealing tactics that our government used against not only black people but indigenous people, Latinos as well. They want a dumb populace who think that, oh my God, after the 60s, we all locked hands and everything was great, even though the black and white wealth gap right now is worse than it was than the 1960s. And that was before COVID, CJ. God knows what that number now. I keep quoting that study from like the 2010s decade. Mm-hmm. Like that's pre-COVID. So like COVID, there was even larger transfer of wealth. Now that landlords and real estate developers have hijacked the housing market, they have destroyed black wealth. So now it's worse. It's worse now.
That has always been a central plan. You get what I'm saying? And people ask, well, why is it black people have not, all these other immigrants have? You got to ask yourself, why is that? It is an intentional thing. If you enslave somebody, wouldn't you try to keep them from gaining financial wealth so they can do something? Wouldn't you have that fear? I mean, it only makes sense to me.
Yeah, the people that deny that. Do you guys understand what civil asset forfeiture is? I showed a study, 65% of civil asset forfeiture cases are black. So this capitalist in this country made a rule where the police can just steal your shit. And then even if you're successful in getting your shit back, that costs thousands of dollars in legal fees. Right. So there's literally a systematic attack on black wealth, and white people like, nothing going on here. It's like, and then RBN brings it up. People are like, oh my God, why you always bring up the race card? Like, bro, they are going after our wealth aggressively. They target us with broken windows policing. They charge us with bullshit, whether we're innocent or not. Whether we're innocent or not is relevant. They take our money in the process. It's literally reallocating wealth from the working class to the ruling class. So I explain to people, how can you be working class and support a system that does this? That drive people into poverty. Yeah, please seize people cars, seize a large amount of valuables all the time and get away with it.
You know how much money cities and municipalities would lose if cops didn't extract money from the poor? Do you know how much they depend on that? It's written into their budgets. If they lose, they can't lose that money.
Right.
It is absolutely absurd, and this is why there's such a PR push against defund the police, because it's like, wow, these people are catching on that the police is actually not here for them. They're here extracting money for us.
Yeah, they was comfortable around bullshit liberal ads that they can easily work around. Then they saw a movement that was actually challenging the systems of power, the means of production itself. Let's take the means of production and reallocate it. Take it away from you people and give it back to the proletariat. So they saw that as a immediate threat. Then they start doing bullshit like, oh my God, that's not a good slogan. We tell you exactly what the fuck we want. That is as good as a slogan as it gets. And that's why you have 55% independents. No one else report on this because it's not convenient to their narrative. 55% independents and exit polls that said they support reallocating police budgets to social programs. 74% Democrats. 1 out of 3 people who consider themselves extreme right-wing Republicans support this.
Wow.
How many policies can say that? Hold up. I'm asking how many people can say that? 55% independent.
You can't say much. You can't say much on that one.
and they always play tricks on how they word it, but if you ask exactly about the policy, people want to do that because they see how ridiculous our police spending is, and if they don't, they will, because we have made massive gains. That number was like minus 33 in like 2020, and we made giant.
But they're
gains.
not. But they want more money, and they're not solving crime. Let's go to another video from Chuck that he posted, and this female here, Sabby also retweeted it or quote tweeted it, so that's why you see Sabby there. And her name, oh yeah, this is Michaela. Okay, so we all know who Michaela is. So let's listen.
20% of crime throughout the entire country, and yet we continue to fund them over.
So let me rewind it and I'll stay quiet so you can hear. She says it right in the beginning.
Police solve less than 20% of crime throughout the entire country, and yet we continue to fund them over and over again, and it's not working. Tyre Nichols was pulled over in a car, an unmarked car, with police officers that were in street clothes, which should not happen. And that's not just something that happens in Memphis. That's something that happens in DC, it happens in Maryland, it happens in Virginia, it happens all over the country. We need to get to a system where we don't depend on police because they don't keep us safe. And it's so sad for the people who don't normally be in spaces like this, who aren't aware of the actual issues, who actually do believe that the police keep us safe. How do they feel? You know, when you think that these people are here to protect you and they are the ones that your death is at the hands of. You know, like how much force it takes to beat somebody with your bare hands. How much violence that takes, how much anger that takes, how much hate that has to take. This system is not working. And matter of fact, let me take it back. It is working. It's working exactly the way that it's intended to. I think we need to break the system, shut it the fuck down, and reimagine what it's like for our communities to actually be safe. Police pulling us over in unmarked cars, wearing street clothing, that's not them trying to keep us safe. That's them targeting us. That is them specifically seeking us out. That is them specifically trying to criminalize us. The issue is criminalization and incarceration. And until we can get legislators in office that's going to do more than do fucking photo ops and kneel on kente cloths like they fucking did something, then we're going to keep being in the streets and people are going to keep dying and black people are going to continue to be hashtags.
So I want to ask this, and I want to get you, Zoya. I want to get you in here so you can share your thoughts as well. But I want to ask you guys, why is there not a conversation about American apartheid? I'm asking that, because what I mean by that, we know that the American police trained with Israeli soldiers, and they exchange tactics, and they learn from each other. So the United States and Israel, who have a partnership, why does it go one way? Why do people say, oh my God, the United States have a partnership with Israel, now Israel doing what the United States does? No, the United States is doing what Israel doing as well with their police. They're trading tactics. What do I mean by that? What do we see in Cop City? In Cop City, you had them immediately go and label protesters, people who are dissenting against their government, as domestic terrorists. What do Israel do to Palestinians? They label anyone who resists their genocidal apartheid as terrorist. Do you guys see why there's solidarity between the Palestinian Community Network and RBN? Between RBN, I'm gonna get them back on the show here very soon. And this is why Black people and Palestinians have connected through Palestine, South Africa, Africa America, Brazil, African Americans in Brazil, who Lula, who his support base is built by a lot of people who support Palestine. Lula dominate the Afro-Brazilian vote, and a lot of them stand solidarity with Palestine. Because we go through the similar struggles. And the police, they literally use the same tactics, the same aggressive tactics. Them using steel bullets at us. Them using tear gas at us. Them using tear gas against the Palestinians. Them killing us, and then blaming us for being aggressive. They do the same thing to Palestinians. They're like, oh my God, that Palestinian threw a rock. That's why we shot him in the head. Oh my God, the protesters threw a water bottle at us. That's why we shot him. It's the same fucking thing.
I was
But I
just
wanna-
gonna say,
Yeah.
if you, because we have, I do feel like this is a learning moment for some of our white comrades in our community who still probably don't understand this. So, we're gonna go to and explaining that. But before we do that, because I do want to have the segment all together, let me just do a couple of announcements, and then we can
Can I
get
get
into
Zoya?
this topic.
I want to see if I get Zoya. Can I get Zoya in here?
Oh, yeah. You had.
Yeah, I want to get Zoya's thoughts.
I'm sorry, Zoya. Go ahead.
No worries. So let's get Zoya, and then
Yeah.
we do the announcements.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no worries at all. I DM'd you a screenshot.
They pull it up.
let's see.
You can introduce it. I think I see it.
It speaks for itself. It says a call to the people. Due to the massive armed attack that has just occurred in LA against the Black Panther Party, emergency funds are needed at once for bail, legal, and medical needs, and to replace damaged and destroyed equipment. The Black Panther Party will continue to exist as long as the people support it. So the reason I wanted to show this is because if you read the first line, you might think that it's from today, but actually this is 5 decades old. This fight, this resistance against the fascist police state has been ongoing for a really long time. The violence has only escalated. They're better equipped. They have more surveillance technology, and none of us are safe. Nobody in the proletariat is insulated from this violence. If we don't stand up for people today, it's going to be you tomorrow. And those who are condemning any sort of protest that might involve violence, especially against property, I want to say that this system is violence. Poverty is violence. And ignoring these systemic issues for all of these decades, that's what leads to this. And riots are the language of the unheard.
Yeah, how absurd is it that the ruling class is going to tell us, oh, you got to make sure you're civil, as they continually use violence against us, use war crimes like tear gas against us, and then not only against us, like how you resolve your foreign conflicts. They bomb the shit out of the countries, sanctions, starving to death, responsible for massive violence and destructions. And then they look at the Black community like, oh my God, why you got so violent? Like, sir, do you see what you did to Iraq? Do you see how you're treating the Haitians and the Cubans? And you guys want to lecture your civilians on how they should act? CJ, I know you want to chime in, so go ahead. I want to hear.
No, it's just this is something. I mean, I was gonna go to announcement, but let's just continue right now.
Yeah, we can go
like
announcements after
ready. Yeah,
yeah,
because we have to understand a couple of things. Edward Bernays, the founder of modern day propaganda, this is all psychological. What Zoya's saying has been going on for decades. Do you understand how that same problem can persist and people just let it persist? It cannot happen without propaganda. This is why the most shows on TV are police shows.
Yep.
They have police in cartoons.
It's literally a genre. They call it buddy cop.
Right.
So
right.
Go ahead, CJ.
This is all to make you believe that the cops are really doing what you see on TV when they're not doing that at all. This is all to make you okay with police violence as if some sort of just thing. They do police abuse, show police brutality on their own shows all the time. Like they'll be in interrogation rooms and slap people. And it's but the way they market it. This is why it's so key when we need to talk about Edward Bernays. Maybe we'll talk about him a little bit. It's all about setting, not telling you that's what it needs to be. It's all about setting the conditions to make you think it's believable that cops can still be good, even though you see all these murders happening. They condition you through these TV things. Oh, yeah, because I'm watching TV and 100% of the shows about cops are good. So these 7 or 8 stories I see, these are just small things. You get what I'm saying?
And CJ, just to add quickly, I'll pass right back to you. And when you look at Law and Order or any of these cop shows where they're the protagonists who really care about solving crimes, like even though they really don't, they always have like the antagonist or like the side antagonist. It's always like any regulation that can get in their way of really like fucking shit up. Like they're like, oh my god, there's so much red tape. If only we get in there and just bust the baddies up. If only the fucking the DA is on my ass, man. It's like, and then they
current affairs or whatever they call it.
And then the unhinged cop that go unhinged, they are seen as the person to go up and beyond. Like, oh my god, you see the guy in the Fast and Furious, the guy that the Rock played. He the cop. He goes beyond, up and beyond. That's why he's the best cop out there. Because if you run, he's gonna chase you down. He gonna put you in the rock bottom. You know. And
I think a good analogy here, and we'll bring Zoya in and ask her what she thinks, would be the cop movie with Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. What is that? Bad Boys.
Yeah, Bad Boys and Rush Hour.
They had all types of police brutality throughout that movie. But you see how it came from black cops. So I think we can kind of use that as an analogy for this real situation. Go ahead.
And Brooklyn Nine-Nine too.
Yes,
I have friends that watch that. And I see shows, and they have some funny moments. But like the entire show where they will have so many punchlines where the gag is, "Oops, I roughed them up a little bit too much." Yeah, and that's like the gag, and they got like, "Ah, man, you did it again." And
that's them making police brutality okay. Like police brutality is not the same as violence from us because it's justice brutality. Go ahead.
Yeah, and to your point, who the police chief on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, the comedy show, a black guy, gay cop. So they was like, we gotta go above and beyond. Making this guy black isn't enough. We made him black and gay. It was like, a double whammy. Yeah. Look, go ahead,
man, but all of these shows are meant to whitewash the stories we have here because it's like, well, if I'm watching on TV and the fictional stories are always the cops are good. Yep. These few stories in the news, it's like these are the outliers. These are the bad apples. So it's maybe white people are allowing themselves to even believe that. Because I gotta believe, and I'll pass it to both of you. I gotta believe there is a certain segment, maybe it's a small segment of white people who very understand what's actually this is, but they're not just gonna admit that this was going on. That's just a segment of white, and I do believe that because when I had conversations with people, or when I watch conversations with people, for example, Robbie from Rising, when I'm hearing Ole or Bree make points that are clearly great points, I'm looking at his face. You can see it's a tell in his face, but he's not willing to come on board to say, yeah, this is a big right. Like he's always pushing back, and that's the type of what I'm speaking to, but I'll let both of you chime in.
So you have anything you want to add before CJ does an announcement? Any last thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this entire system operates on fear of the other. That's what I think was on Robbie's face. It's things they can't say out loud, but it's fear-based because they think if there aren't cops, then who's going to protect them and all of their valuables? That's really what it's about.
So like
self-preservation.
Self-preservation, that's the right word. Thank you. Right. Wow, I never looked at that angle because it's like, well, yeah, all of those things are bad, but the cops are still good because if you say, yeah, the cops are bad and yeah, we do need to do that, then it's a feeling of, then what protects me? Yeah, why is that their fear? What do they believe is going to happen?
Well, that's why the first question as abolitionists we always get is like, what's the alternative? Because there is fear. The fear that they think is going to happen is the same propaganda that you referenced, which, by the way,
that is very hard.
Police departments spend hundreds of millions of dollars on just PR. Just to create this reputation of community helpers and saviors. So people are taught that there's violence and that they should be afraid. And the only thing standing between them and this violence is these police. When the data doesn't support that, when we know the cops solve only 2% of major crimes, and that's mostly because, somebody gave somebody up, not because, they're in a CSI lab testing for fingerprints and identifying the hairs. All of these things, they're top-rated shows, and we really want to believe that someone is out there protecting us. And this is how they destroy community, by making us scared of each other. So instead of us leaning on each other and we protect ourselves, they teach us to fear each other and turn to the nanny state to protect us and give up our rights in the process.
I must say, it is an absolutely brilliant idea that we're up against here. They have, because just think about it, if you take a step back and think about how they've changed the idea of slave catching into they have completely flipped this over decades. It's just amazing. It's just a brilliant execution. Maybe it wasn't at the start of the plan, but it's a brilliant execution of whatever the plan could be. But let's do a quick announcements, and then we'll get back into more of the Tyre Nichols specific story and explain how this is still white supremacy. This is the Zoya, Nick, and CJ weekends. Always good to. I feel more relaxed on the weekends because it's it's not such a rush. Everybody's home. I'm dropping people off.
It's kind of feel like the end of the week is like the time when we
I do like the mood of the Saturday show or Sunday, either day. I do like the mood of it. So, but join our Substack. And let me just say this. There was a person who emailed us, I believe, that said they had an issue. If you're having an issue with adding yourself to Substack, you can always email us your email and we'll manually add you on. So just email us your email address and we will add you manually to our Substack. But for those that don't have a problem, here's our Substack. You can join to get our notifications when we go live, like streams like this. We don't always go live on Saturdays. To make sure you get notifications of this, notifications of our stream yesterday, which was an awesome stream. We had Nick start us out. I was like in the middle, and then Rome came in to end the stream, which was great.
Yeah, it was very therapeutic. Let's say that.
Yeah, it was. I'm happy because we were going to take 2 days off. I'm happy we decided not to yesterday, and it was really the reaction. In hindsight,
there was no way I was going to do that. I watched the interview again. We had long conversations after that, but then I watched the interview that night. And I was like, yeah, sorry. I got definitely. I wasn't planning on going live that long. I was like, I at least got to go at least 30 minutes. There's so many things I have to say about the interview. I was like, there's no way I can drop the substance of what the fuck she just said. But anyway, it was very therapeutic.
But no, it was people in the comments made comments specifically about that. We're like a few. We're like, yeah, I'm happy you came and clarified, because the first one, just because of what happened, I was kind of people like, I'm kind of discombobulated. So when Nick came in and just went through each point, it's like, yeah, and people were like, yeah, I didn't even realize. Now I look at it, I didn't realize how much, refocus how many points.
Right, let's stay serious, okay?
So the second stream,
that's it.
The second stream did help to refocus the just terrible interview that she had. But join us on Substack. You also get access to our Discord. If you're part of our Patreon, which is scrolling at the bottom of the screen in blue and white, you also get access to our Discord account. We hit 30K, so let's go. 30,267. That was yesterday. I haven't checked it today, so maybe I'll check it before the stream is over. So thank you. So 27 days into it, like Nick said yesterday, I'll take that. 27 days late after the target that we thought was just astronomical. We were just like, hey, let's do 30,000. It was like, just throwing something out there. So that's great.
That's only possible because you guys share, you guys like. The algorithm is not our friend, so it's because you guys share the word around. So much love. Go ahead, CJ.
So the next one, and Nick came up with this. I would have probably said 40,000, but I do like the ambitious, how Nick is always ambitious with the amount. So now we're going RBN to 50K.
Let's go.
Let's go. RBN to 50K. So 50K,
make sure, baby, let's go.
Make sure you like the stream. Make sure you share. So like today we have a little bit over 300 people watching. Can we get to 300 likes? That'll get more people here. That'll get more people sharing. That'll get more people subscribing. Because every time you share, it'll pop up in somebody's feed that doesn't follow us, but may like politics. So let's make sure we're doing that. So let's try to get to 300. And I think, Nick, did you want to start with the Tyre segment? I have some videos set. If you don't have anything said, I can start.
Yeah,
with some,
I was gonna.
informational
You can
video.
you can play the video first.
Yeah,
I got a few things I'll share. I can get to that, but I'll let you.
Absolutely. So I didn't mean to put you on the spot there. We'll just ask. I should have asked that before. But yeah, I have several things. Actually, yeah. Let me go to this one here. This other one I have saved. I do want to go to a couple of more people talking here because it's very pertinent to the conversation. So let's listen here.
Washington, D.C.
I have something after this video.
$500 to $600 million on policing every year, and we police only one community year in and year out, and we know that community is shrinking. Is being.
I'm sorry. I had the volume so low. Let me start over so everybody can hear it a lot clearer, and because it's very important here.
In Washington, D.C., we spend $500 to $600 million on policing every year, and we police only one community year in and year out. And we know that community is shrinking, is being pushed out of our city aggressively. And those remaining officers are weighing even more heavily on the remaining few who are being policed. We have very little insight into how their money and time is being spent. We're seeing the impact of having.
Oh no, it restarted, but that was that video. Go ahead, Nick. You can go with yours. Let me see.
Yeah, I have this. I want to interject a mini segment, which is still on topic. And already starting to see the scumbag liberals making their move, right? Remember how George Floyd was killed and the Democratic Party took his death and then used it to fund the police more? Remember how they, after the George Floyd protest, after pretending to listen to their family, after hearing Black tears and exploiting Black pain, they then gave 50% of COVID money to the police. You guys remember that? Hey, let me put it. I'll do it like this. There we go. Now, so the biggest disrespect that you could do is use our pain and suffering for political capital. And then after you get that political capital, you use it to fund our oppressors. So when this tragic death of Tyre happened, I already knew this was going to happen. I've been avoiding a lot of this, obviously, with the Marianne interview and a lot of stuff. A lot of content, like this is the 6th day in a row for me streaming, so I haven't been online that much. But I just know that there's a bunch of police state supporting liberals that is trying to use his name for clout, for social media following, of like rest in peace Tyre, even though they support the policies that lead to this neoliberal police state. Now, I'm gonna show you guys the worst example of this. I'm not gonna nitpick people too much, but I saw this and I was absolutely enraged. President Biden just called Tyre Nichols' parents. He talked to them for more than 10 minutes. He actually tattooed my name on his arm. His mom told Biden. That's what you do. Oh, actually, they were just reading. I'll just play the video. It's really hard to watch because it's so unbelievable.
Yeah, it's cringe. It's so.
Go ahead.
I can't believe these people are they will co-op and attempt to co-op everything. And then you got these black clowns that'll just go ahead and co-sign for it. Yeah, go ahead and co-sign for it instead of saying something like, hey, man, like there is no line. You know what I mean? There's no line of integrity for these.
They have no decency. These people have there's no decency. And then people want us to be submissive and just accept it. This shit right here is why I talk about Joe Biden the same way you hear brunch liberals talk about Donald Trump. Same thing, the same level of enemy and urgency to defeat to me. Donald Trump and the Republicans wish they can get away with this level of disrespect. The best they can pull out is Diamond and Silk. The best thing, may get Candace Owens out there every once in a while, but they use the family of the people who just died to get political capital to fund our oppressors more. So let's play this video. I'm gonna get a reaction because I know you're probably gonna spoil this. I saw this earlier. I just had to respond to this, especially when we covered Tyre Nichols. So let's watch this. Damn, I gotta double check my audio. I'd rather be safe than sorry. Let me pull it up again. This is the bullshit they pull and why RBN is here to be the number one people that oppose this party and the people that want us to run in this white supremacist party. It's kind of hard to hear. It's kind of like that anyway. I heard it on my phone too.
Yes, sir.
I know people say that too, but I do know. I lost my son in the war.
He said, I lost my son in the war. Did he lose his son in the war?
I thought it was a car accident or cancer, or maybe it was another son.
Wait, hold on, let me
I
hear
don't
that
know.
again. Did he lie? Did he lie?
I do know. I lost my son in the war.
Yeah, I don't know if you, because this, I remember I had a problem with the video earlier because it's kind of naturally low. He said, I lost my son in the war. That's not true, right? I'm not a Biden family biologist or biographist or whatever. I don't know, but that seemed like a lie, but let's continue. Pretty much, he's talking about his family laws.
I don't know how you stood there. I didn't have the courage to do what you did.
The difference is that you are the member of the ruling class that is directly responsible for the death of their family. And I want to say this out straight up. I do not blame these people at all, obviously.
No, not at all.
Imagine this happened. You looking for anyone to reach out. Like, you want to talk to anyone. So obviously that my intentions was clear. No shade at all. Because I can't even imagine what they're feeling like. So anyone, oh my God, President Biden on the phone. All right, let me talk to him.
So, no, let me tell you, if somebody I knew died and I was in this situation, I absolutely, because you want any attention to your loved one. It doesn't matter. It's not Biden why they're doing that. You get what I'm saying? They didn't say, hey, let me just have a conversation with Biden. It's because of their son. They're just trying to bring attention to their son in any kind of way that this is a terrible thing. Now, maybe they're not, into politics. We don't even know if they vote, but absolutely, it's not that. But it's not their fault at all. This is not a critique on them. But his son, Biden died of cancer. He died of brain cancer.
He just lied to them. He just
lied.
I
mean, like I said, unless he had a different son that died, I don't see anybody but Bo that shows up here. That's the only one.
Here's a comment. Let's rely on this guy. Biden lost his wife and daughter to
I remember that one.
Bo died from cancer related to military service. He said he died in a war. I seem like maybe we should read a fact check on that. But man, like, so what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Why is there even a need to lie? Because it's filmed. You need a good soundbite.
It's a soundbite.
I want to get Zoya thoughts on here as well. But go ahead, CJ.
Let's bring in Zoya.
I know a lot of people say they can't hear that in the video. But guys, it's not really much to hear. You guys get the gist of it. He pretty much like, I lost my son, I lost my family before. I feel you guys' pain. He also said, according to the tweet, his mom told him that he actually tattooed my name on his arm, saying that his son tattooed her name. And then Biden said, that's what you call something special. Just nothing really important to break down during the conversation. The point being, you see how they are quick to use Black pain and death in order to win political capital. And then they want us to be like, oh my God, Democratic Party at least got the messaging right. No, they are scumbags. They're the fox that Malcolm X warned us about to be afraid of. But go ahead, CJ. Actually, I'm gonna get Zoya if you want to have any.
Yeah, let Zoya chime in and then we'll get to the video here.
And what's dangerous, they also use this to pacify us, because having them on, it makes it seem like something's being done, like somebody cares. And it made me think back to when we had the LA riots here and Rodney King came out on TV. Rodney King, for those who don't know, was brutalized by police, and it was videotaped, and that's how we ended up with the LA riots when the cops weren't implicated in wrongdoing. So then he came out on TV and he was saying, can't we all just get along? Because there's pressure on people. Like, if you don't come out and make a statement, then you're going to be responsible for uprising and violence.
Well said, Zoya.
Absolutely.
And,
Let's
and just
go
for
ahead.
Aaron and CJ, I want that would be a good clip. 'Cause I want to expose like Biden uses this death for political capital, something like that. That'd be a good short clip. But anyway, CJ, go ahead. I'll pass it to you.
Yeah, Aaron. Yeah.
Aaron,
And let's listen. Let's listen here. It's a 1 minute
shout out
clip.
to Midwestern Mars.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's a short clip. I was wanting to describe it without giving it away, so let's just say it's a short clip about the subject.
The body cam footage of the murder of Tyre Nichols is one of the worst I've seen in terms of sheer brutality. And it was committed by this group of cops, the Scorpion Unit, who repeatedly attacked Tyre while he was in handcuffs. And a lot is being made of the racial makeup of the cops who did this, because oftentimes we've seen racism be a motivator in these acts of police brutality. But this just goes to show that the cops, regardless of what color they are an armed body of the capitalist state. They are a body of people armed by the government and the state and granted a monopoly on violence. They have the special legal authority to commit violence on behalf of the state, which usually involves suppressing the masses. And as Dr. Gabor Mate points out, in acting as an armed body of the state, the psychology of the cops is damaged. They're constantly in high stress and traumatic situations that change the way their brains work, which is why 40% of cops commit domestic abuse. And it's why the masses need to seize state power. The body cam footage of the murder of Tyre
Nichols. Shout out to Midwestern Marks. Very great channel. And I love how they constantly quote theory as well to explain the thought process. And I had a conversation with Q, Anthony, and Minnie as well. And we're trying to explain that the system that we see here, the lives that you guys live, the material conditions that you guys live are a product of this system and by centralized planning. Like, people think that, oh my God, these issues in society, they're random. No, Marxist theory and general education can explain everything that's happening in these societies. That's why we explain how capitalism is the ultimate level of authoritarianism, because these police killing and police brutality is the end result of late-stage capitalism. As capitalists get more desperate to control the workers, as the workers continue to get more unruly, as unrest continues to increase, you got to increase the power of the centralized capital, which includes their goons, which is why they get great benefit retirement packages. That's why they get paid way more than teachers and other health services, because they're a part of the capitalist machine. It's an investment of capitalists and them indoctrinating them. That's why if there's any protest, guess who's going to be there to demand you guys stop holding the ruling class accountable? The police, because they serve capital. Zoya, anything you want to add?
That's absolutely correct. I mean, we've covered it so many times in our 10 demand segments, which I hope people will take a look at, where we actually get into a lot of statistics and data. And at this point, it just feels like we've said it all. And I'm personally at a state of excitement right now, because cops kill 3 people per day and nobody notices, and it doesn't go viral, and it doesn't get the attention that it needs and deserves, and it's just normalized. But right now, while people are paying attention, there's actually energy where we can use that energy to challenge this system.
Yeah, that number gonna go up again, CJ. So I'm like, we are making progress as a proletariat. As a revolution, we're becoming smarter, more aware. Our messaging becomes smarter. The people that say, "Oh my God, drop the issue because it's so hard to win," and I was like, "You guys are literally trying to kill revolutionary energy." I don't care if the number is -50, -60. If I'm in the right, we're gonna fight for it and we continue to make the argument. Now, after this, that defund the police number is gonna get higher. The people that are gonna look into 10 demands, you gotta have more people look into this stuff. You gotta have more people look up Midwestern Marks. You're gonna have more people who look up police abolition. They may find one of our old videos, Zoya. People be watching like them old 7-month videos. I see people comment like on the anti-imperialist summit every once in a while. I see those comments roll through. So you see, maybe it may be more interested in seeking that information out, and that's how we create change. That's how we take this messaging campaign, then eventually people in the streets, we get more people in the streets, and then we got a massive movement of the proletariat that we need to make change. I think that's where we at, and that we got to continue to promote. And that's why Zoya said that she's excited, because I'm definitely going to be in the streets out here in Kansas City and try to cover some protests if I can, because that's exactly the energy that RBN on the channel. But go ahead, CJ. I want you to continue.
Yeah, so let's kind of get into the discussion, or the part about the conversation. Now let's talk about the Coons here. And that's what they are. These are the house Negroes of the system. Just think of the system is the house, and they have been given special privileges. So they think they're white, essentially, in the system. But as they can see, they're not, because the system is not going to cover for black cops in the way that they're going to cover for white cops. And this is what Coons always have to find out the hard way, Nick.
No,
they have to be. They have to be treated like everybody. They have to be treated like everybody else for them to get this. Now, the critique should never be, why is the system only going after black cops? The critique should be, what has happened to these black cops should be happening to white cops. That's what we should be saying.
Exactly.
Not somehow that these cops, something's wrong because the black cops are the ones that are getting this swift justice. Now, they are getting this swift justice because they're black, and the system is like, we ain't about to defend ourselves for these Negroes. We ain't about to go to the mat for these Negroes. That's absolutely not what's going to happen. Go ahead, Nick.
I just want to interject before you continue. Another good point to make is, what is it about the system of policing that make these black brothers and sisters turn on their community that you guys said they are here to protect and serve? So it's the conversation is, why do white police officers not prosecute this way? And what leads this system to make these people turn against their own community in such a brutal way over and over again with these black cop sellouts, right? But go ahead, CJ.
So how is this white supremacy? Now, they could have not, maybe they were attacking him not for racism, meaning they're not racist, but the act is still an act propping up white supremacy. And I'll give you an analogy, and I'm going to pass it to you to kind of give more of a detail, like of a detailed version, because I've heard you talk about this before. Now, in my analogy, I'm going to use a slaughterhouse. The slaughterhouse workers, the people who go in and chop up the animals, are these cops. The animals are us. Now, if to the animal's perspective, does it matter if the slaughterhouse worker is a good parent, is a good husband, goes to church? What does that do? When he puts on that uniform, he goes to kill the pig, the animal, whatever he's slaughtering. So that it doesn't make a difference who the slaughterhouse worker, if he's black, white, doesn't make a difference. But the system of slaughtering the animals, in our case, is the police state. So I hope that analogy didn't confuse you. I hope that kind of clarified for some of you. But I want to pass it to you, Nick, for an explanation from your perspective, or how you connect. How would you explain this to somebody? How white supremacy, this still is white
for the sake of this segment, because I think this would be a good one, because I explained before, this is why I said all the time why black cops are the absolute worst. Sabby Sab said it best on her show as well, that black cops are cops first, black second. The same way extremely rich capitalist millionaires, people like Terry Crews and Morgan Freeman who sell us out, they're rich, successful capitalists first, black men second. And I preach, and I'm glad that younger black Americans who lead the way on socialism understand this, that we need to have not just identity liberal politics, right? Not liberal woke politics. We need class consciousness. I mean, you're my brother not only when you're black, you're my brother when you are in the same struggle and trying to increase the quality of me, my family, and your life together. That way it means you're a brother. You're not my brother if you put that fucking uniform on. You are literally betraying our community, and I am not going to soften my language to make these black boomers who've been brainwashed to be apologetic for the system that killed their sons and daughters. Period. And I
imagine
go ahead.
Imagine being one of these black men here who lived through, quite likely, the same oppression from black and repression from the police state and how they occupy our cities. Imagine going through that, being racially profiled, and then saying, I want to be a part of that shit.
Makes no sense. I want to share this. I think this is from James Baldwin when he's talking about black cops. Big shout out to MHM for flagging this to me earlier. He said James Baldwin. This is my tweet. I'm pretty much saying the same thing when I said black cops are the worst because they have a chip on their shoulder. They feel they have to protect their fellow police. They feel they have to prove to their fellow police that they won't take it easy on their own. That's why they beat the shit out of black suspects. Like, see, I'm not taking it easy on them because they look like me. I can make it in this environment. And this to my point where I said cops are defunding themselves. That's the live stream we did before, CJ. Talking about how morale's low, they're struggling to recruit, more people are going early retirement, and they are defunding themselves because of lack of morale. And we need to continue to call out these brothers who selling us out and become police and make it a social stigma. Like it not only through these institutions that we must operate as a proletariat and as an intelligent working class. We gotta make it a social stigma to be a cop. I want to see more stories about, oh my God, we have another kind of recruiting. Goddamn right. Because if you have someone, they're like, oh man, I think about becoming a cop. You say, what the fuck you do? We having a tough conversation. That's not gonna happen. But anyway, back to the point. This is James Baldwin wrote about this. He said black policemen were another matter. We used to say if you just must call policemen, for we hardly ever did. For God's sake, try to make sure it's a white one. A black policeman could completely demolish you. He knew far more about you than a white policeman could. So he knows about. That's good. That's such a good point. And you were without defenses before this. Black brother in a uniform whose entire reason for breathing seemed to be his hope to offer you proof that though he was black, he was not black like you.
You were the peasant black. I am the accepted black by the whites, by the white supremacy structure, because I have this uniform.
Yeah.
And they feel, I mean, it's literally like you have to, you're not going to get hired if you're for black power. They ain't gonna hire you for no cop. You almost have to show through the hiring process of how you're going to hate. You got to prove you're going to hate your own kind, I guess, for them to get into these academies. Go ahead, Zoya. You wanted to chime in?
It just reminds me of the doll test, which we've discussed with Professor Zinkis before, where these children are shown dolls of different skin tone, and they're asked which one is the good one, which one is the bad one, which one's the violent one. So we saw in those tests that there's a lot of internalized racism because white skin is put on a pedestal of innocence, and even people who are black end up having internalized racism. And there's such pressure to want to be accepted in the system. But I absolutely agree with you, sadly, that we are seeing that some people are trying to prove that they're one of the cops, that they want to be accepted so bad that they really go to these lengths and do these dehumanizing things. I watched the video and I just could not believe the level of aggression and violence. And that's completely legal as long as you have a badge.
Yeah, I have another quick story that I'll put together really quickly because I think it's important, and also give you some hope in terms of why we should continue to fight, and also show the intention of the police. So the way you have media come out and put stories are like, please be nice people once this video of our government thugs brutally murdering your brother and sister come out. Please be nice to that. And then you had a police that was flinching. So they were showing stuff. They had this Scorpion unit that was using that they was preparing to use against protesters. And because of community pressure, because of the people that spoke out against them, they're now deactivating the Scorpion unit. And this shows the mindset of the police, where their first reaction is going on offensive. And as a community, we must demand that they stand down. And this is why I'm extremely critical of fake populists like Tucker Carlson, who I did a breakdown on recently, where he demonized people who protest the government. Oh my God, you're being rowdy. No, the police who designated the Scorpion unit, they are the aggressors. So, any thoughts you guys have on this? I'm pretty much.
What I want to add to this is that if you're a leftist if you're a person who can understand what's happening in Palestine, you should be able to understand what's happening here. As Nick has alluded to or said, they're training each other. The same sort of tactics you see there, you're seeing here. The same sort of over-policing of cities, occupying of cities. The same sort of tactics that is being used. Why do you think it's being used on our community, Nick, specifically?
That's how their ancestors moved and operate. And the reason why they have to book burn, and ban stuff like critical race theory, because we talk about how violent their ancestors are. And we say, hey, our systems right now, they're looking pretty similar to the systems of the past. So maybe we should address that. And then people like Ron DeSantis like, oh my God, don't tell Timmy that. Don't tell Timmy we made no progress. So they convince themselves like, oh man, I know this land was built on violence, man. I know we did some messed up things, but we made improvements. We are better to you. We built a society that you guys should be blessed to be a part of. And then when we confront them on how violent they are and the fact that you are the same as your forefathers and your grandparents by supporting the same violent system they use against us, they can't handle that. So that's why they ban that.
Let's think about what we're doing.
Yeah.
Just think about what we've been doing for hundreds of years. We are reforming slavery. And we're acting like we don't understand why we're here.
Yeah.
That is what we're doing. Aren't we just reforming slavery? That's it. And the same thing with police. The reason, how are you still reforming police? If you turn on a show like Good Times, which is a show from the 60s, a black show from the 60s, was like in the top 3 shows in the nation. They're talking about police violence. How is that? How are we reforming something good? Why is something that is all of this good that's part of propaganda, why does it need to be reformed? This is the reason why, Nick, some of the pseudo left, the white pseudo left, don't want to talk about institutions.
Yep.
Because talking about institutions means changing privilege.
No, it's Jimmy Dore's fault. CJ, not institutions. If it only wasn't Jimmy Dore, we would get left change. You guys, and that's to your point. It's not about the institutions that we tackle. It's about these individuals. And and you had liberals. Oh my God! If only it wasn't for Joe Stein. If it wasn't for Julian Assange, we could have stopped Trumpism, and the working class would be in a stronger position. So I'm putting that up because that's to add to your point. Your point is a good one because they do avoid traumatism. Go ahead.
Yeah. So just to we're going to be rounding out this segment here, but we do want to get some more kind of details here from from this. So let's just play. So let me read the information here. The 5 former Memphis Police Department officers have been indicted by a grand jury on charges ranging from second-degree murder, aggravated assault, aggravated kidnapping, official misconduct, and official oppression for the death of Tyre Nichols. I believe that's the correct pronunciation. If I'm pronouncing his first name wrong, please, somebody in the chat can correct me. And now I just want to show you a couple of videos of some of the protests that's going on also. So activists across the country take to the streets demanding justice for Tyre Nichols, who was killed by the police in Memphis. Protesters in Times Square chant, "The whole damn system is guilty as hell." So let's listen to this. It's a slightly under 1 minute, and this is in Times Square. And then there's some video in different cities that I'll show here.
The whole damn system is guilty as hell. Convict, send those killer cops to jail. The whole damn system is guilty as hell. Indict. Is guilty as hell. Is guilty as hell. Shut it down. Shut it down. Shut it down. Justice. Now. Justice. Now. Shut it down. Shut it down. Shut it down.
And then there's another one, I think, from Breakthrough News. This one is protest demand justice. Does it tell me? Doesn't say where it's at, so I'm gonna assume it's in Memphis. So let's listen to this one.
Tyre Nichols. Tyre Nichols. Tyre Nichols. Tyre Nichols. Tyre Nichols. Tyre Nichols.
So I can pause that there. So you see a couple of and I think Zoya says she has an article to pull up too, but you see some of the protests across the country. There's protests out here in LA. I've heard of one. Zoya kind of alluded to it. And there's protests like I've seen some in Detroit. I've seen some in New York. It's everywhere. And what I want to say, I don't know if people are talking about this, Zoya, and maybe you could speak to this, is that the step between protest to transforming that into something, because they want us to protest. Get it out your system. You know what I mean? It's almost like, yeah, get it out your system, and then we're going back to the same system with no changes. You get what I mean? So is there ever a feeling, because you've been at a lot more of these protests over the years, I'm just now getting into this. So could you speak to that? Is there any frustration on the ground that, hey, we're pushing this envelope with our protests and pushing and making these demands direct action? Is there a point where the system is just not responding to that either?
Well, the system always ignores us until it becomes unsustainable, when property damage escalates to such a degree where they have to intervene. It does usually work in tandem to have someone within the system, a representative within city council, that when you apply pressure in the streets, you can come as a mediator and say, well, either you got to keep dealing with this escalation or you got to give us our demands. So it does make sense to have demands so that when they ask, what do you want, we have something to ask for. And that's actually how we came up with 10 demands, which you guys can find on 10forjustice.com, which lays a path to abolition by step, in empowering the community to replace what we rely on the police to do, which they fail to do anyways. And the crisis in policing is the culmination of 1,000 other failures of education, social services, public health, criminal justice, and economic development. So we need funding for our communities. That should be our main message. And the funding should be removed from the police, because the only function that they serve is to brutalize citizens. And that is not something that any of us should be okay with funding. But this is going to be a long fought battle. And even during George Floyd, we got so many people out there, but ultimately we had no cohesive demands. And so no demands were met. And then the politicians stepped in, co-opted it. And, you know, the George Floyd Act actually does all the things that we oppose. So unless we are loud and organized right now with what we want from the system, which for me is abolition and defunding them to zero, they are going to step in with their own messaging. And eventually these peaceful protests will turn to violence. That is just coming. And another thing I want to say is just anybody that's going out there, please stay safe. Sharpie any phone numbers you need on your hand, because your possessions might be taken from you if you're taken into custody. Have some water, milk, first aid kits, and a rag with you for safety. And don't wear anything that's identifiable. And don't post on social media that you will be attending these
things. Yes.
Yeah, don't go, hey, I will be at the don't do that on social media whatsoever.
Yeah. So
yeah. Let me just put this up before you move on, just so people can see. This is the map of police killings in 2022 we just ended. This is showing that. And you know the angle I want to try to address more, to bring more of our white comrades and just white people on to understanding this. They're killing y'all too.
Yeah.
They're killing you too. Because if you're talking sheer numbers, now black people are disproportionate being killed, but the sheer raw numbers is more white people killed.
That's why
they're killing you too. Go ahead, Nick.
That's why, as Marxists, as socialists, as advocates of the proletariat, this is the purest battle we can fight. Whenever someone wants to say, "Oh, why you guys always pretend that black people being killed by police?" I'm like, okay, what's your criticism? You guys being killed too, right? Then shut the fuck up and welcome aboard. Then, why are you stonewalling? Why are you using CIA tactics? Why are you slowing shit down with unnecessary concerns? Right? If we have the same goal in mind, let's have our strategies to advocate for that, right? But go ahead, CJ.
No, just that was great to add on, and I just wanted to add that part on. Now, let me give you the website to this so you can go check this out yourself. But it's mappingpoliceviolent.us. It's also just go there and you can check it out. Also on Twitter. Is it Mapping Police Violence also? Oh, no, this is the website. So mappingpoliceviolence.us is it, I guess. Okay. So it's not
the reason why it's in their comments. I put this up. This is good advice. The reason why it's a good idea to leave your phone at home, even though I know it's extremely tempting to bring there. Whenever there have been instances of police detaining people, and then a crime will happen, like a business had the windows busted, and then they will look at your phone location. They say, "Hey, you was in that area when this happened," and they use that as evidence, and they use that so they can pin crimes on protesters. This happened many times before. That's why it's a great advice to leave your phone at home.
And they take civil asset forfeiture. They'll just take your property.
And I just want to add on that Google and other corporations work with the police. You can look it up, and they will give your geolocated data. So if anything happened in that area and your phone puts you there, and this has happened, people have been wrongly convicted just for being in the vicinity.
Yeah.
Just the things that this system does to regular people who are just mad at the system, it's just an indication that they know they're terrible. To me, they know that they're terrible, and all these little things they have set up through the judicial system. Look, they got judges, man. They got the DAs. I mean, the public defender's office, and a lot of these municipalities are working with the freaking prosecution to railroad these defendants. It's like at every layer they have co-opted, or by design, maybe it's by design, to have it this way. And we must think about, why do we just reforming slavery? That's all we're doing. That's why they still have these remnants or crumbs of the past that you can see. That's all we're doing. You're reforming. The police is reforming slave patrols. So what you saw in that video is how they would go out and catch a slave and beat his ass for running away from the plantation.
Well said, CJ.
Yeah, so I think we can cut it there
Yeah.
unless you have more.
Yeah,
to
I think
add.
I have no final thought. That's good final thought. Zoe, you have anything, or you want to end the segment? You good?
I just want to tack on to an earlier point you made,
Absolutely.
because yes, it's absolutely true that the system, the origins of policing in America is in slave patrols, and Black people are targeted 300% more than their white counterparts, even though they're only 13% of the population. But the majority of police murders are white people. And I almost feel like but I almost feel like they want to frame it, in the mainstream narrative, like it's just a Black issue. And a lot of white people have this ignorance and this false sense of safety that their white skin will somehow protect them at a police stop. And let me tell you, I've seen so much cop corruption and use of force. They do not care. They feel power over you. If you are in a lower or middle class, you are a target. They will let you know that you are not human to them. They will plant evidence on you. I have watched these things happen. LAPD's record is completely atrocious, and I'm in LA for those wondering. We have the most murderous police department in the country. That's the LAPD. That's who we grew up with. So we need to really start coming at this from a class perspective. We need to understand that these people are protecting property and they're going to attack the proletariat no matter what. Meanwhile, the LAPD spends $8 million per day. And 1/3 of their use of force is against the unhoused. This is an economic issue. And people who are going to be out there protesting, they're not just hurt by the injustice. The injustice is just the straw that breaks the camel's back. But people are strained by their economic issues, by not being able to afford to live.
Zoya is love.
Absolutely.
Zoya is life. Thank you. What were you about to say, TJ? Go ahead.
Yeah, let me add on what she just said, just to explain one. Framing it as a Black only issue is so that the general white population, as you spoke to, Zoya, don't know that it's happening to whites and they won't care. It speaks to how the system understands that they're still conditioning the white population to be racist just without those words.
Absolutely.
It's terrible. Yeah, it's terrible. All right, Nick, I'll pass it to you. I think you were gonna.
Yeah, I have a short story I want to do, and then I'm actually gonna leave in maybe 15 minutes because I want to do it.
Sure.
You can stay obviously long if you want, but I want to do a little shorter because it's 6 streams, 6 days. Been great days. So I was gonna do shorter, so you can do whatever you want to do. But there's a short story to have kind of ended on a more upbeat note and also educational note. I think this story is the preface of what I'm going to talk about. Right? There's a antitrust lawsuit against Google for having a tech monopoly, and I'm like, just now you guys are doing this in 2023. But that's good. And this headline, CNBC said the DOJ's antitrust case against Google is ambitious but risky, whatever that means. Now, once again, this story to preface. My criticism of our system is my internet is pretty bad, right? I made some adjustments here and there. I reorganized some things. That's why my set changed like a year ago. There's a lot of sacrifice I had to make. I had to upgrade, and then even then I got Spectrum, right? There's like Google Fiber was not like skip my area because the infrastructure is not good enough. So Spectrum has a monopoly here. Like core structural key infrastructure in our society are monopolized. There's a food monopoly. There are people who monopolize water, monopolize the internet. I have an internet monopoly where I live at, right? You know, like, where's this energy at these people too? That's just a point I have to bring up, right? Now, why do I bring this up? Because this is a very interesting story. This is now broke. You want to know who benefit from this? You want to know who had prior knowledge? You want to know who's an expert, savvy business investor who made a profit because they saw the DOJ antitrust lawsuit coming on Google? So they have this psychic foresight to sell their stocks before this happened. Nancy Pelosi, the greatest financial investor of all time, apparently. Not only is she's the first ever Speaker of the House, she's an intelligent lawmaker and the best financial guru that ever existed, apparently. That's what Democrats want you to believe. I'll read the headline here. Once again, this short, fun story. Pelosi, but also serious, because you see this is corruption. This is hardcore corruption. Pelosi sold 3 million of Google stocks 4 weeks ago. Wonder why she did that. It's almost like the Biden's DOJ was like, hey, Pelosi. Either that or she's the best financial wizard of all time. Maybe she saw the winds blow and she's like, oh, no, man, I think Google got a monopoly. So I think maybe they may be investigating. Who believes that? And it is this article here that reads, I'll read this. Blatant insider trading. Pelosi stock trade goes viral. Internet accuses her of white-collar crime. I'll just read the first two paragraphs. On Tuesday, the Department of Justice launched a massive lawsuit against Google, claiming the internet giant has an illegal monopoly on online advertisement. By acquiring competitors, Google has corrupted legitimate competition. And they made the argument here. I'll continue here. The story gets weirder, however, considering that Nancy Pelosi made an eyebrow raising. You don't say. Like the average liberal mind wants the average worker, CJ and Zoya. They want us to think that this is a coincidence, that Nancy Pelosi is the best stock investor of all time for constantly getting these things right. So I don't have to read that much. I think I got the last story. I'll read this last story.
And I don't understand people who go, yes, queen to her. Like, how do they overlook this? Like, people who, defend her, all this stuff. Like, what are they doing when these stories come out? Are they just, yeah, their hands over their eyes?
Blinders, earmuffs.
Yeah, I don't get this.
Yeah, but this is, instead of us having progressive leaders call out the corruption that the working class. Remember, I asked the question, Marianne. Another person who can answer this question, right? So the working class donated to the progressive politicians because they told us they was going to fight corruption in politics, including calling out the Democratic Party establishment. Now they're committing fraud because how many of these people are calling Pelosi out for this? You know who did? Kevin McCarthy, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who said we got to look into the corruption in Nancy Pelosi. So now, instead of the corporate media writing a story of Bernie Sanders and AOC calling out the corruption in their own party, we got to get headlines where liberals can spin it as the Republican bad guy only saying this because red, blue shit. Why is the progressives in the squad not out here leading this charge on this criticism against Pelosi? And this alone is disqualifying to be speaker, let alone forget any discussion about forced to vote. Before forced to vote happened, you guys want to know what I was saying? Before forced to vote, I was saying the litmus test is these motherfuckers better not vote for Nancy Pelosi for speaker because she's a war criminal and she's corrupt. And then when they ask why you don't vote for her, you say, I am not voting for Nancy Pelosi because she's a corrupt inside trader. And start the dialogue. Good luck, Nancy Pelosi and the Democratic Party defend that, but that's not their job. Their job is to stay quiet about this kind of stuff. And then vote for Nancy Pelosi without an ask. Then forced to vote happened. I heard the idea, and I was like, oh shit, that's better than my idea. I was just about to say, fuck Nancy Pelosi, period. Might well ask for her, have an ask. Anyway, that's the story on Nancy Pelosi and the corruption that the progressive movement, the Justice Democrats, is 100% okay with. They rubbing elbows with Nancy Pelosi and Hakeem Jeffries, even though they're blatant inside trader going on. And that's why people like Marianne Williamson did not have an answer when I say why should workers continue to donate, even though you guys committed fraud and not calling out the corruption in your party. People got to come on RBN and go on independent media to hear a left-wing voice call out Democratic Party. How pathetic is that? Final thoughts?
That was devastating for her. But as far as Pelosi, this is why I call her the matriarch of corruption in Washington, D.C. Like, she's literally doing it in the open, and people are letting her get away with it because they almost fear her. She controls so much money. She has so much connection. And you mess with her, she can just literally call up a buddy and be like, that's it for them. You can cut off the money. You know what I mean? Like, she has it like that. And that's why they let the bill die. Remember, supposedly they were going to have this bill, and then they let it die. Where were all the socialists about letting that die? What happened? What happened to that? Or because now you go out to dinner with her, you're not going to be criticizing her. But this is Nancy Pelosi till the end. She's this corrupt. Till the end, she's making money. Till the end.
Well said.
She's going to ride this out. So that's my last words. Zoya, any final words on this?
Go ahead, Zoya.
Pelosi's part of a political dynasty. While they sell us this fantasy of a democracy, she's related to a former governor of California, Jared Brown. She's the aunt of current governor of California, Newsom. The judge is related to her family that oversaw Paul Pelosi's DUI, her husband's. So these people, it's a big club and we're not in it. And the problem with Marianne Williamson, amongst many, is that she's still pushing this narrative that one party is the lesser evil. That's the bottom line with what I saw her convey on your segment and many others, that yes, the Democrats are bad. She's willing to concede on that. But then she says the other party is so much worse that we have to use this Democratic Party apparatus in order to take them over and create an opposition. And then the other thing she postulates, which Nick took apart brilliantly, is that we still need to go out there and do PR for our policies when we already know majority of the country supports our policies. And we don't need more PR, we need action. And she has absolutely no plan on how to make these policies a reality. That's why she had to deflect. That's why she had to use logical fallacies, ad hominems, and that whole mansplaining line and run away. And I'm sorry, I know Marianne Williamson personally. I've volunteered for her organization, Project Angel Food, since I was 16 years old. She does do good. I will give her credit that she is a millionaire politician that, like a lot of liberals, likes to think that she's a good person, and therefore she does put energy into doing good things in the community. And thank you. But that does not mean that you should lead anything that you cannot personally relate to. And your entire attitude during the interview, honey, was the condescension we constantly face, the proletariat, when we ask for anything from the establishment, which Marianne is entrenched in.
Zoya's love. Zoya's life. Always with a powerful statement. So I'm gonna read the super chat, CJ. After that, I'll bounce out. You can continue if you want. Zoe, you can bounce or continue if you want as well. I just want to keep it 90 minutes for me personally today, but I'm gonna go ahead with the super chats. Thank you for 999 Black Food. Comrades, I live in Long Beach, California. I want to join your community action. I'll send an email to the website. Great to hear that you want to help us, comrade, for sure. I hope to hear from you. Through like Boyd, socialism or barbarism. Absolutely. Thank you for the solidarity. Looking forward to seeing us work together, my friend. Thank you for $5. Zang, that's a super solidarity super sticker. Thank you for the $5. Justin, the only people that get rich while in office are criminals. Lock them up. Well said. The 13th Amendment, this is another one from Justin, allows for legalized judicial slavery. Fact. Our community always dropping truth bombs. Always dropping truth bombs. Thank you for $20. Justin, 30.5K. Let's go. Let's go. I think we gained like another 250 after we did the rewatch. After everyone calm down, everyone relax. Let's talk. We watched the interview. After we had a chance to do that, everyone like, oh yeah, this shit. There was a lot of good reveals there. And there's some Marianne Williamson fans that are in cope mode when they say stuff like, I said, they's like, Nick, you say, oh my God, you say you got your sound bites. That show that Nick is a bad faith actor. That Nick only invited Marianne Williamson on because he wanted to grill her. He didn't have good faith. He just wanted to get sound bites. He's a grifter. I have been 100% clear about my intentions, CJ. I told you guys I am a propagandist for the workers and for Black people unapologetically. So when I had invite Marianne Williamson on, yes, I am looking for sound bites that advance my argument that we should not go into the Democratic Party. I have an agenda. I am pro-worker. I am pro-Black, and the Democratic Party is anti-worker and anti-Black. So I will come with an agenda that exposes that ideology. I didn't force her to say anything. She did that herself. So I'm glad that she gave me the sound bites, because now I can continue to make the argument against her and her strategy.
I think people want to make just the term soundbite to mean something bad when all you're saying is you want to get her pinned down on some of these answers so you can expose her because she's willy-nilly on Twitter. She ain't doing nothing about Ukraine on Twitter. She ain't saying nothing about anything for months. Yeah. And she still hasn't said nothing for months, didn't let us pin her down on anything. So people want to act like it's bad faith because you want to get answers on policy.
People was like, oh my God, Nick is so bad faith. He invited a presidential candidate on and asked her hard questions. How dare her? I saw people say that, and I was like, okay, if I'm going to be criticized for anything, like if I'm going to be criticized for anything in this media sphere, I'll take that. You know what I mean? I'll take the criticism that, oh my God, Nick is too hard on presidential candidates. Yeah, okay.
What?
Yeah,
I haven't seen this criticism yet. I gotta check some of this out.
That was Vanguard. The Vanguard was trying to spin that. We was like, "Oh my God, he said he got found that he's grifting." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I got bias. He's biased towards my community, brother. That what it means to actually care about something." Thank you for 199. And speaking of the Vanguard, the L Guard, as I'm gonna start calling them, continue to take L. We done. We dropped our last segment on them, but I will respond to your guys' comments. If you guys bring them up, I have fun with you guys. I used to wag my finger at you guys like, hey, if you bring them up, I'll laugh and have fun with you guys. It's fun. They came after RBN, miscalculated. Man, miscalculated. I don't know what other way to say it, because they were getting destroyed. But in their own, they always make videos with like Jimmy Dore caught up by his own fans. This person caught up by his own fans. Like, bro, you get caught up by your own fans every goddamn video you guys make.
They're worse than anybody.
So if you guys force us to talk about them via super chat and stuff, we will. I have fun. But for the most part, that's not our primary focus anymore.
They would have to do something egregious, like vote for a Republican or something like that. Hey, let's stomp for Trump. Then we'll be like, what kind of clownish shit? But other than that, there's no more tit for tat because they're so irrelevant.
Yeah, it's over.
So irrelevant.
It's done. But once again, if you guys want us to talk about it, keep leaving chats, I guess. We're not gonna ignore it. But anyway, thanks for the $25, Greg. Love you guys. Check your Twitter inbox. I sent you a video about the Vanguard response to my question. Marianne's interview with you, it was cringe, and this is the general reaction that Vanguard is getting. The Vanguard saw RBN skyrocket past their dead channel, and it's like we're gonna have a move where we go after RBN and we're gonna steal the audience.
What?
It's like the calculation that they made, and it backfired in an amazing way. So I'm glad that you guys are having fun with it. I'll always conversate with it if you guys want to leave chats about it. It is.
I think it's even backfired even at a higher extent than when it backfires when they do content on Jimmy Dore.
Yeah, it's
like they're getting such
Jimmy is so big. Jimmy is so big. He has these haters, the liberal haters.
Yeah,
people who hate people who criticize Bernie LC. So Vanguard realized they lost the real left after the Aaron Mate and the Lee Camp interview. So they said, we're going to build our audience based on the people who got Jimmy Dore derangement syndrome. And when they made that shift, it was obvious to literally everybody.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know who they
it
thought
was
it
like,
was
why
saying.
did they go after him? Like, where did this come from? It
Like,
was that was
so
kind of
obvious they were
reaction.
trying to grift that shit because they saw Sam Cedar. They see Sam Cedar, his best video be against Jimmy Dore. They see TYT best video against Jimmy Dore. And they obviously made a calculated decision after they lost everyone after the Aaron Mate and Lee Camp interview that we're gonna focus on Jimmy Dore to get people who hate Jimmy Dore. And you watch and you look at the video, you look at the comments, it all filled with people like, oh yeah, Jimmy Dore's the worst. I'm glad you're taking Jimmy Dore down. And never people going on to Vanguard like, yeah, I'm super happy. You did a good job of breaking down the geopolitical conflict. Like, they never do that. It's, thank you for taking on Jimmy Dore. That's their entire audience. And they thought they can peel people from us. Like, what the fuck is wrong with it? Anyway, it has been funny. And I can end the stream on that funny note, right?
Yeah,
so,
that was funny.
Boy, you can stay. If
let's
you
see
what.
what. Yeah, let's hear her last words before you go.
I asked you. What your?
Oh, you got to go. Okay, then.
Yeah, I'm leaving. Zoe, what do you want to do? You want to stay? You want to, or any last thoughts?
I can do one last thoughts and then dip with you.
All right, bet. All right, so announcements for me since Zoe's staying for another story. We're gonna have Comrade Misty, my friend, too powerful. She's gonna join me on Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern. We're gonna have a good rant session. I'm sure that we can fuse it to a great show. And then on Tuesday, speaking of Anthony Zinkis, you brought him up earlier. He's gonna be joining us on Tuesday as well. Also got the other guests I'm working on. So early next week, we got a lot of great conversations. So that's the plan. See, I was also letting CJ know as well. So that's what we have planned. That's why I jumped on 6 days in a row. Take tomorrow off, and we right back at it next week. So see you guys then. Have a good one.
All right, and let's go to Zoya. Let's get your final words on anything, not just this last topic, but like just anything in the stream. Any final thoughts from you, Zoya?
Yeah, so I just wanted to cite something. A 2021 study from the University of Chicago estimated that 53% of people living in shelters and 40% of unsheltered people were employed. So we are talking about people who have a job and simply cannot survive on the incomes that this exploitative system is providing. So to finalize my thoughts on everything that's happening, I'm not endorsing violence, but we can't deny that it works. Peaceful protest works as well if it can disrupt business as usual. The goal is to agitate the system. Riots or general strikes, I endorse all forms of getting our demands met, because we must never forget that this system is murdering people. We cannot allow the distractions of capitalism to lull us into inaction. And while you are out there, connect, form community, make plans to grow gardens or unionize, start a breakfast program. Let these protests be the beginning of a proletariat awakening to our true power. We are the majority. We are the labor, the producers, the true wealth of this country. Enough tyranny of the elites. Organize where you are and make your neighborhood something to be reckoned with.
Absolutely. Zoya, thank you for joining. It's weird because Nick hit you up, but we didn't plan, because I just made this stream and I was gonna do this stream, and then Nick, who comes on, we do the Nick and CJ shows sometimes. He's like, hey, can we bring Zoya on? I was like, dude, I was just about to hit up Zoya and Chuck to see if they had anybody for this for today. So it was funny how we were both on the same wavelength. So thank you, Zoya, again for joining. As always, I'll place you in the back. And what we're gonna do is end with a outro video. Let me see where I'm at here. I do like to. I am gonna, since we were just talking about the Vanguard, I do want to show a couple of things here because I think it's funny. I just went and posted a couple of their actual comments. So like this one here, this is from their show. I screenshot it, and I'm gonna read your super chats in just a second. Just wanted to show a couple of them and then play the intro video. So this one here, I remember you saying you don't cover RBN or channels around the same size as you. laugh out loud, but I guess the gap keeps increasing, so maybe that's why you cover RBN now. And it looks like you lost 100 subs overnight. RBN reached 30,000 post meltdown. And if you're on my Twitter, go and check these out. These are their comments. Here's another one. Serious question. When do you release the review of the actual interview? And that's was one of the points I made. Like, okay, you had your fun with the last 5 minutes of it, but when are you going to critique the actual substance of the video? Somebody referenced them as being MSNBC. So check that out. Now let's go to a couple of other quick things I just wanted to show you. I think there was one other video. I love this guy who is speaking. Did I save it? Let me see if I saved it. I love this guy that Chuck posted. Maybe I did not save it. I thought I did. I'll go to his channel and play it. But I just want you to hear another video from this guy. Maybe we can use it as an outro video. We can. We played the first one. That was an intro video. And now let's find, I think this is the one. Yeah. Now let's listen to this other one from this gentleman, this OG here.
Within the city council. And the intentions is to remove all of these tents.
Yeah.
These people homes.
Yeah.
Then they will not have any place to go with that. How could you take something like this when a person only had this for whichever reasons you may have and leave them with nothing? And you consider yourself a human being, a God-sent person? These people, whenever they lose what they have, they're going to go into the streets and they're going to do things to try to eat. And then they're going to wind up going to jail, which is going to increase the prison population again. It would be the 10th jail line. It would be the 10th jail line. And if anybody would follow one or two or three of them, you will see once they move those tents where they wind up at.
How do we stop it?
How do we stop? We get in front of it now and we begin to protest and begin to attack that bill. Right now, we got to begin to organize to circumvent what they have stated will happen in August. These people have nothing, Chuck. And you're talking about taking nothing for nothing? What do they have then? This is awful. In America. It's not right, Chuck.
Yeah, so you saw, I like this OG. He's seen a lot and he's just telling the story. So great to see that. And as you saw, a couple of comments from Danny. Danny also having a little fun with the Vanguard. Let's see. Let me go back to that here. Here's another funny comment, and I'm going to bring up Danny's other comment. Here goes one. You guys, oh, that's the one I already told you. Let's go down to a lower one. You guys go out of your way to censor people in the live chat. That was something I didn't know of Vanguard. I didn't know they censor people in their live chat. I heard about the super chat part, but I didn't hear about the live chat. Now let me go back to Danny's comment here. Gotta find some time with Danny to bring Danny back on, and likewise, Danny. So Vanguard said yes to an interview the day of messaged me saying, "Oh, we don't have time to do a full interview today," and never heard from them again. They were obviously scared. That's such a weird thing. Because now that I think about it, back before FHE, I remember the Vanguard reaching out to me and then in the interview never materializing. They wanted to interview me. So that's funny that their interview with you, Danny, never went through. And there was another, somebody saying Danny killing it there. There was another one. Danny put up here. Congratulations to RBN to 30K subscribers. Absolutely. And thank you for those who subscribe and got us to that 30K, and that's all 30,000 of you, 30,000 plus now of you. Let's see. CJ, you're as real as they come. You fear nobody, my man. Thanks for the comment. Vanguard is such a laughing stock. Yeah. Yes. Somebody called them the Starbucks kids in one of the comments that I have on the screen there. I don't need to show you what Vanguard is trying yet. Yeah, so thank you for those. I think we're gonna end there. It's been, fun to end the stream this way, but let's round it back to a little bit of seriousness with our outro video. The other story we're not gonna cover today. We were thinking about it, but yeah, I'm gonna go. U.S. generals warn troops that war with China is possible in 2 years, and then there's a geopolitical economy article that's attached to it here. Geopoliticaleconomy.com. The U.S. is already preparing for its next war, and I actually think it's written by Danny. Yeah, it's written by Danny, actually, that I recall, because I read a little bit of it. So I think we're going to leave it there. So now let's get to the outro video. Where am I on here? Here. Let's get to the outro video. Oh, I guess it's this one. There we go. All right. All right, so let's get to this outro video. So many good ones to choose from. I can't believe Bernie Sanders made this video. Have you let me just see if you've seen this crap right here. Watch how Bernie Sanders jump in.
Today. Why? Because
if you haven't seen this, look at this.
Right now, over 40 million Americans eligible for debt relief are being denied that immediate relief today. Why? Because Republican officials and special interests hit us with lawsuits to block it. Folks, I know you're frustrated. I am as well.
And I am too. For millions of working and middle-class Americans who are under the burden of crushing loan debt, student debt relief would be life-changing.
That's disgusting for
and guess what?
Bernie.
Because of these Republican officials, not even one of the over 80,000 people from Delaware, where I know you're from, Joe, who applied for student debt relief or were eligible for automatic loan forgiveness have been able to get a dime of that relief.
The fact is that in Vermont, Bernie, it's over 50,000 borrowers. 50,000 borrowers. And what about bigger states? How about the state of Texas and the state of Missouri?
Well, Joe, it'd be over 2 million and close to 500,000 borrowers respectively. The list goes on.
In state.
It's just a sad state of affairs, boy, what this guy Bernie is down to. So Bernie is trying to act like Biden didn't set up a house of cards to be taken down easily. His own advisor or one of his campaign advisors, Brianna Joy Gray, did several streams on this. It's so sad to see this guy at this point. Like, it's just terrible to see for them to get this guy in here to do this. Let's blame Republicans so we can keep making this red and blue. Just terrible. Anyway, it's Bernie Sanders. That's Bernie Sanders. So we're gonna end with this video here with the family of Tyre Nichols when they appeared on Democracy Now!
Year-old son. Tell us more about who he was, about his skateboarding prowess, working at FedEx, coming home for lunch each day to you. Just talk about how you want us to remember him.
I want you to remember Tyre. Tyre was different. Tyre didn't follow everyone. He was his own leader. He had a beautiful soul and he touched everyone. The boy smiled all the time. He loved his mother's cooking. He loved his son. That's why he came to Memphis in the first place, to be with his mom, build a better life for him and his son. But Memphis took my son away from me. I have no.
Tyre had a tattoo of you on his arm.
He had my name on a tattoo of my name on his arm.